All right, today we're going to break down a huge idea from the 18th century, one that absolutely shook the religious world back then. It's John Wesley's Justification by Faith. And honestly, the core question it asks is just as challenging today as it was then. So let's just jump right in. Let's just start with a question that really gets to the heart of this whole thing. Imagine this. What if real, true inner peace wasn't something you had to earn, like a prize you get for being good? What if it was more like a pardon, something you were given, even when you didn't deserve it? That's the fundamental human problem that Wesley is tackling here. Okay, so let's start where Wesley starts, with the problem itself. He saw this universal ache in people. That deep, deep desire for peace that's always getting sabotaged by our own mistakes, by our own failings, and that nagging feeling that we're constantly being judged. And what's really interesting is how Wesley frames this problem. See, for him, the conflict isn't out there somewhere. It's inside us. It's internal. He literally says, our own hearts condemn us. And that's a powerful thought, right? If we can't even make peace with ourselves, how on earth are we supposed to find peace with a God who, as he says, knows everything about us, even the stuff we try to hide? So, where did this mess even come from? Well, for Wesley, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. He grounds his entire argument in the biblical story of humanity's creation and, well, its fall from grace. This is the foundation for everything he's about to say. And he lays it out in three really straightforward steps. Okay, so first, humanity was made perfect, holy, totally in sync with God. Second, they were given a perfect law, which, demanded perfect, nonstop obedience. And third, they blew it. They disobeyed, and that one act, what's called the fall, had absolutely catastrophic consequences. And the result was devastating. See, according to Wesley, this wasn't just one person's mistake. It was a collective failure. Because the one person representing all of humanity failed, the judgment, that condemnation, was passed down to every single person. This, he argues, is the broken state we're all born into. But here's the thing. The story doesn't end there. Wesley says that just as the problem came into the world through one representative, the solution was going to come through another. And this, right here, is the massive turning point in the whole story. God sent a second Adam, and that's Jesus Christ, to be a brand new representative for all of humanity. The idea was that his perfect life and his sacrifice could actually reverse the damage that the first Adam had caused. And when you put these two side by side, the contrast is just stark. I mean, look at this. Where the first Adam brought sin and condemnation into the world, the second Adam brought this free gift of righteousness and justification. It's like one man's catastrophic failure is completely answered by another's perfect success. Okay, so we keep using this big word, justification, but what did Wesley actually mean by it? It's a really specific term, and if we don't get this part right, the rest of his message kind of falls apart, so it's super important. So here it is, the core definition. For Wesley, justification is simply a pardon. That's it. It's God acting like a judge, forgiving our sins, and it's all because of what Christ has done. And notice that little word. It's something God does for us. It's an external act, not something happening in us. And sometimes it's just as important to know what something isn't. And justification is not God just being tricked into thinking we're innocent. And it's definitely not some kind of reward for being good. Wesley is so clear on this. God isn't fooled. He sees us warts and all and chooses to forgive us anyway. Okay, and this leads to a super important distinction that people sometimes get mixed up. Justification versus sanctification. Justification, remember, is that one-time pardon God declares for us. But sanctification, that's the lifelong process of God working in us to make us better. You can think of it like this. Justification is the starting gun that gets you in the race. Sanctification is the actual running of the race. They're connected, for sure, but they are two different things. And that brings us to the final and honestly, the most radical part of Wesley's entire sermon. If this pardon is out there, just waiting, then who gets it? And what, if anything, do they have to do to receive it? Wesley basically hinges his entire argument on this one verse from the biblical book of Romans. And just listen to who it says God justifies: the person who worketh not, so not the hard worker, and the ungodly. I mean, that was an absolutely shocking thing to say back then, and frankly, it's still pretty shocking today. Yeah, let's be absolutely crystal clear on this point. According to Wesley, the people who qualify for this pardon aren't the good people. They're not the righteous ones or the holy ones. They're the ungodly. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it, right? A pardon is for someone who's guilty. Forgiveness is for people who've actually done something wrong. So, here's the logical conclusion. Any religious system that tells you that you have to get your act together and become holy before God will forgive you is, in Wesley's own words, a gross absurdity. He says it's like telling a sick person they have to get healthy before they're allowed to go see the doctor. It just makes zero sense. Okay, so if being good and holy beforehand isn't the condition, then what is? Wesley's answer is just one word: faith. Faith, and faith alone, is the one and only condition for receiving this pardon.
So you might be asking, well, what about good works? Don't they matter? And Wesley would say, absolutely. But we have the relationship backwards. He argues faith isn't opposed to good works. It's the root they grow from. You don't do good things to try and earn forgiveness. The idea is that true faith, a real pardon, will naturally start to produce good works, just like a healthy tree naturally produces fruit.
And we need to be clear, this isn't just, a vague belief that God is out there somewhere. Wesley defines this kind of faith as a really deep personal trust. It's the confidence that Christ's sacrifice wasn't just some big historical event for the whole world, but that it was for me, that he loved me and gave himself for me. But why? Why set it up this way? Why make faith the only condition? Wesley's answer is actually pretty profound. He says it's designed to completely hide pride from man. Think about it. If salvation is a free gift that you just receive through faith, then nobody can ever boast that they earned it or deserved it. And that leaves us with one last, really provocative thought to chew on. If God justifies the ungodly, if being worthy isn't a prerequisite for his love, well then what's the foundation for our morality? What's our motivation to be good if it's not to earn that pardon we've already been given? It's a pretty radical idea, and definitely something worth thinking about.